Good day, everyone, and welcome back to Oklahoma Voice. I am Jonathan Clore. Today, sitting with me in the KTLV studios is Representative Paul Wesselhoff. He is rejoining Oklahoma Voice to discuss some legislation, perhaps talk a little about national politics, and maybe a little bit about some OU art. And Representative Wesselhoff, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
First of all, I want to talk a little bit about this OU art. I know that you had been fighting to get this art returned back to its rightful owner. Could you discuss how this became an issue here in Oklahoma with OU and why you were wanting to return this art back to its owner?
Well, when I discovered that the art was at the Fred Jones Museum and we learned that it was stolen by the Nazis, I wanted it returned to its owner. And so I communicated with President Boren privately and encouraging him to voluntarily give up that art, as other universities have done across the nation. And I didn't want to take this campaign publicly. I wanted him to do this privately, and he instead decided to, go through litigation. And so I told him in my private letter that if that's his choice, then I will have to take this campaign publicly, and which I did. And it's been a long ordeal, but frankly, we won, and there's a settlement now, and the painting will return back to France, and I will accompany that painting on the July 4th weekend. And then after the painting goes through customs, I'll present it to Mrs. Meyer, and it'll be returned to its original owner. And it'll be in a French museum in Paris for 5 years, and then it'll return to OU for 3 years, and then back to Paris for another 3 years, and that'll go on perpetually. That's part of the settlement.
Very interesting. And I know that this is going to pick up international news, right?
Yes. When we hand over that painting to Mrs. Meyer, there'll be all kinds of international press from Israel, UK, Germany, Swiss, French. There'll be a lot of press. This is an international story, and believe me, people are looking at this all over the world, especially other museums, because we know that there's still a lot of art out there that was plundered by the Nazis that are in museums. So I'm sure this has probably been a kind of an earthquake through the museum industry. So they're looking at what's happening in Oklahoma.
Wow. Well, we are thrilled that you're able to take this issue and be able to run with it. And we're really, looks like you're really laying the groundwork because you're saying this is the right thing to do and we need to stick with it.
It is the right moral thing to do. And frankly, I think the university has placed Oklahoma on the wrong side of history. Now it's being rectified a little bit. But frankly, if I was the president of that university, the university that I have tremendous affection for, I would have voluntarily given that painting back to the original owner, and that would have really made Oklahoma look great. Unfortunately, they decided to litigate.
Well, we appreciate your efforts on that. We know that you are a citizen of the Potawatomi Nation, and you also serve in that legislature as well, and I believe you were just elected to another 4-year term. Am I correct?
That's correct. We have 4-year terms. We are the only tribe that has a national legislature. And so I represent the state of Oklahoma in this legislature. There are about 16 of us, and we meet about every other month, and we pass a lot of resolutions. We don't call them bills; we call them resolutions. But we pass a budget, over $300 million budget, and we try to develop enterprises, and we're trying to diversify our economy away from gaming. Because at some point I feel gaming is going to implode. We have over 100 casinos in Oklahoma, and there are only so many gambling dollars in Oklahoma. So I feel at some point in time that that's going to implode, and that's why I want my tribe to be diversified into a number of enterprises. We own several banks. We own a huge grocery store, gas stations, pecan orchard. So we are really trying to diversify our economy.
What other improvements would you like to see the Potawatomi Nation make? What else would help our Potawatomi people?
Well, the most important thing, the thing that excites me, is our scholarships. The number of scholarships that we give our kids and the amount of the scholarship is going up. And there's nothing more important than getting our kids educated. And I'm not just talking about college. I'm talking about career tech. You know, if they want to be welders or electrical engineers or whatever, those are good paying jobs. Being a plumber they make a lot more money than a professor of sociology. So we want our kids to go to career tech and to get degrees from universities. And so I'm very proud of what our nation has done in that regard.
One of the major issues that Governor Mary Fallin had addressed in the State of the State address is our education here in Oklahoma. And as the years progress, we're seeing that our kids are experiencing an education gap, meaning they're not qualified to work some of these jobs. And as the years progress, they're going to have a certification, or they're going to have an associate's or a bachelor's degree. So it looks like this issue spans not only in the Potawatomi Nation, but across the state and nation as well. What do we need to do as a legislature, as folks here in Oklahoma, concerned citizens? What do we need to do to help resolve this issue?
Well, I think we have a challenge in our public school system in that they don't really have a lot of competition. And when any entity doesn't have competition, they stagnate. And I think that's what's happening in our public school system, not only in Oklahoma, but throughout the United States. We are so far behind other nations in our scores, and we are losing a whole generation. We're bringing over bright people from India and Japan and South Korea to fulfill some of our high-tech jobs, and that shouldn't be the case. But it's because of our public school system. They need some competition. We need to have a lot more charter schools that will give a lot more independence to how a school is governed. We need more private schools, and then we also should pass this educational savings account bill. Unfortunately, it will not be heard this year by the House or the Senate, but most of my colleagues would like to have that bill heard, and that gives some autonomy to parents to be able to put their kids in the school of their choice. So the real answer to our educational dilemma is parental choice. And frankly, right now, they don't have a lot of that.
And I want to talk more about our education here in a second, and we may try to call Estela Hernandez up on the phone. She's with the Oklahoma Council on Public Affairs to see if she has any input with this later on in the program. And just so our listeners won't be confused, Representative Wesselhoff is a member in the legislature in the Potawatomi Nation, but also in the Oklahoma State House of Representatives as well. And I believe he is on his final term in the legislature. Am I right?
That's correct. When it comes to the end of May, our session will be over. And then I'll have a few more months to represent my constituents in different things that they need. But come November, I will be replaced. We have 12-year limits in Oklahoma, which I think is a good thing. I think it's good to have this turnover because it gives people like myself the opportunity to run for office to begin with. Had it not been an open seat, I would have never been elected. So term limits is a good thing. And frankly, I'm looking forward to the last chapters of my life just to see what the Lord might, what doors he may open for me.
Excellent. Do you think a few years needs to be added to the amount of terms that a legislator can serve?
Actually, I had a bill last year that would have extended it from 12 to 16 years. And frankly, I think the national legislature should be term limited to 16 years. I don't think congressmen should be up there in D.C. for 30, 40 years. I'd like to see them term out at 16 years. But that bill did not get a hearing, unfortunately.
Well, and you've got to kind of look at it this way, too. Keeping a cap on how long an official can serve in office can keep from corruption, can keep from someone, sitting in that office for so long that it grows corrupt. But the other thing, too, is, in that 12 years, a legislator or an elected official will learn the process, and they are the ones that possess that wisdom. And then once they finally get the whole process down, it's time for them to move on. And we'll be losing valuable people that possesses this wisdom like yourself.
That's true, and that's one of the drawbacks from term limits. It certainly empowers the lobbyist because they know what's going on down there. The executive branch, it gives them a little bit of an advantage. So there's some drawbacks to term limits, but I think the positive outweighs the negative.
Representative Wesselhoff, I have been looking at our Super Tuesday results, and I know it's been a couple weeks since the big day, but we saw on the Democrat side that Bernie Sanders had received a majority vote over Hillary Clinton. Does that surprise you?
It did surprise me and most of my colleagues. The only answer I can try to understand is, one, the Democrats were able to have independents come in and vote. And so we don't know how many independents, came in and voted for Bernie. So that might have affected the election somewhat. The other factor is there's a lot of people in Oklahoma, Democrats, that just don't trust Hillary Clinton and would want someone other than her. And, she's under investigation by the FBI right now. We don't know where that's going to end up. And so she's not a very strong candidate, nor has she been campaigning very strongly. So I think that also discouraged our local Democrats in Oklahoma, and they chose to select Bernie. But also you might keep in mind the history of Oklahoma. Oklahoma has always been a renegade state from the very beginning. We were very much independent, a kind of a populist government formed the state of Oklahoma. You probably know we have probably the largest constitution of any state in the nation. And so there's some historical precedents here. But the bottom line, I was quite shocked that Bernie carried Oklahoma. That really says a lot.
And I know Bernie is a self-proclaimed socialist.
He is.
And does that speak to the evolution of our mindset as a state or as a nation?
Well, we're going through a very difficult time nationally right now. Most of our citizens, frankly, do not trust the government. We elect officials. We expect them to go to Washington, D.C. and represent us. And we're a very conservative state. And yet it seems like when they get elected, these congressmen and senators veer off to what's called the establishment, or make a deal here, make a deal there. And it's really caused a lot of repercussions among the citizens. And I think the attitude out there is, hey, let's shake this place up. Whether it's Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump, they're in a mood to make dramatic changes. And obviously, if Bernie was elected or if Donald Trump is elected, that's a very dramatic change.
Folks, you are listening to Oklahoma Voice. I am Jonathan Clore, and in the KTLV studios with me is Representative Paul Wesselhoff. Representative Wesselhoff and I decided to give Estela Hernandez a call. If you remember, Estela has come on the program before, and she is the former vice chair of the Oklahoma Republican Party, but now I believe she has a new position, and it is with the Oklahoma Council on Public Affairs. Estela, are you there?
I'm here. Happy to be here with you.
Hey, thanks for joining us on Oklahoma Voice. Tell us a little bit about OCPA.
Yes, I'm delighted to be part of OCPA and join such a great team and influential organization that truly is shaping the direction of our state. With OCPA, it truly promotes limited government, the free market economy, and individual liberty and responsibility. And it's a conservative think tank, and truly it serves as a fountain of ideas. And while, of course, the different political parties are very important, and of course our elected officials, we definitely work together to be able to get those ideas and enact those ideas and truly give and move the vision forward for Oklahoma. So it's a wonderful organization to be a part of, and a lot of things are getting done.
What are some major issues that the OCPA has championed in the past?
One of the ones that we have worked on quite a bit, and it's unfortunate that this legislative session not much was moved forward on it because it was not heard on the floor, is education. We definitely and desperately need education reform here in Oklahoma, and one of those ideas, of course, is education savings accounts. And so I know that is something that has been a divisive conversation for many. But we know that overwhelmingly Oklahomans support ESAs, and parents are in need of those, along with students who need individualized learning, and ESAs would be the answer to that.
And before we get to the education savings accounts, I was hoping you could tell us what your position is at the Oklahoma Council on Public Affairs and what it is meant to do.
Yes, my role is Vice President of Engagement, and that is truly to engage Oklahomans, the grassroots across the state, to be able to advance the vision and the work that OCPA is doing. We know that going to the polls, that is great, and being able to do our civic duty, but we need to take a step forward and do a bit more, and that is working and having our voices heard with our elected officials. So my role is truly to be able to broaden that base, to continue to bring individuals in with those ideas, champion those ideas, and work along with our elected officials as well. So it's really bringing on folks as members of OCPA and joining us in the battlefield of ideas and advancing Oklahoma in the best direction.
Does the OCPA have like a board of directors and a president and a vice presidents?
Yes, our president is Jonathan Small, and of course Dr. David Brown. He is, of course, the visionary, the one who truly got all of this going back in 1993, and he wanted a state-based think tank to be able to have these ideas in an organization that would be effective on public policy, and that's what he has created thanks to his vision. And yes, we have a number of board members that help so much with the organization and the state as well.
All right, and are there any events coming up in the OCPA?
Indeed, we have on May 12th, as you know, Dana Perino, and she will be at the museum, the Cowboy Hall of Fame here in Oklahoma City on May 12th, and we encourage folks to go on our website at ocpathink.org/events, and they're able to purchase their tickets there as well, along with going on the website and joining us on the work that we're doing. Advancing public policy issues across the state by going on to the membership tab as well and becoming members for as little as $25 a month. We will get the Perspective publication that we do every month. It's one of the publications that I would read cover to cover even before being part of the team. So it's definitely great things that are happening, and we look forward to a very prosperous year at OCPA.
Oh, wonderful. And towards the end of our program, I'm going to try to remind our audience once again of that May 12th event. And I love Dana Perino. She's a real sharp lady, and I know that she was the press secretary for George W. Bush, and she's also a co-host on The Five on Fox News. So she's a real savvy lady.
She is. She has a lot of fans in Oklahoma, and we have folks that are excited to see her. So I know those tickets are going fast.
Okay. Well, Estella, you're more than welcome to come back on when it gets closer to that date to remind us about that, because we want to support that.
Wonderful.
And you may not know the exact number on this, but I'm just curious. The Oklahoma Council on Public Affairs, do they have a fairly large size pocketbooks in terms of furthering issues and spreading the word?
Yes.
What's the operating fund? I guess that's my question.
Well, you know, it truly is an organization that has quite a bit of influence across the state. Many elected officials and organizations look to OCPA for guidance on fact-based information, for numbers and research, and that's why it's been so effective in the state. When it comes to numbers and you could say the operating funds, of course, those are things that I don't have the exact numbers for you at this time. But, of course, we have a lot of generous donors who have made sure that we continue the work in Oklahoma and the work to advance all of these public policy issues. But that's something that I can definitely get to you.
And Estella, isn't it true that the Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs is now tracking a number of bills that they would like to see succeed? Now, I don't know if they're going to evaluate legislators, whether they vote yay or nay on some of this, but at least they are proposing a list of bills that mean a lot to the organization, and I think that will have some influence because the Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs is probably the most highly respected think tank in the state of Oklahoma.
It most certainly is. You know, it's one of those things that we keep at the forefront, Oklahoma businesses and families, and ensuring that Oklahoma's economy continues to thrive, and the importance of being able to expand and diversify our economy. We know when this shortfall that we currently have, the $1.3 billion shortfall, it's important for us to be able to come together and equip our elected officials with ideas and numbers as to what we can do together as a state to be able to continue to fund the important things that the budget does here in Oklahoma. You know, one of those things, aside from education, is also criminal justice reform. We know that as we're talking about the budget, with corrections, it is the number 4 largest budget item on the state, for the state. And that is something that we know that we have to do certain things to be able to lower the number of individuals that are incarcerated, but how much is actually spent on it. And so what we are supporting and backing is actually justice reform, and that should be a ballot initiative question that will be on question 780 and 781. And we have former Speaker of the House, Chris Steele, that is working on that with different organizations, and the cost-saving measures that are proposed on question 780 would then move on to be able to give those cost-saving measures to our counties, and that pulls in question 781.
Estella, a lot of people would think that education, common education, is the highest priority in the state, but I would argue that there's nothing more important or has a higher priority than public safety, and corrections is in that area. And that's one reason why we're probably going to give them some supplemental money in this year's budget. I'm not talking about next year, I'm talking about the current budget, because we've got to keep people safe, and we can't be having riots in our facilities. And I would say no matter what the state is, all 50 states, the highest priority of any sovereign state is the protection of their citizens. So public safety is number 1. Maybe common education is number 2 or 3, but number 1 has got to be public safety. Would you agree?
I would agree with you 100%. It truly is. If we don't have a safe environment, if we don't have an area where individuals can feel safe to be able to thrive, everything else is secondary. So absolutely, that has to be one of our number 1 priorities. And once we know that that area is secured and we have taken care of that, of course, we must then move on to be able to care for education as well. And we know that that is important in Oklahoma.
And with our budget shortfall, we're seeing tension across our Oklahoma government, and I believe Secretary of Finance Preston Dorflinger had said that he was very upset with the Republican legislature refusing to act on the education savings account legislation. Can you give us a little bit of information, Estella, of how the Oklahoma Council on Public Affairs stood on the education savings account legislation?
Yes, this is definitely one issue that OCPA has been working on for years now, and has been working with our legislators to pass education savings account. We know that in Oklahoma, if we continue to do the same thing we've been doing and expecting different results, it's not going to happen. So truly, this is one of the best pieces of legislation that I have seen in a very long time.
I agree.
In giving parents control over the children's education. Oftentimes, we hear complaints that our class sizes are too large. We have teachers that are stressed out, and so there are ways to be able to help that and alleviate that. And of course, giving control over to the parents, it's very critical, and we need new ideas when it comes to reforming our education system. And, the other thing that we've been working on also at OCPA is ensuring that our teachers have that increase in pay. And we have to prioritize our students along with our teachers. But what's happening is we have the education monopoly protecting top down instead of bottom up. And it's unfortunate because we know that in Oklahoma we have way too many administrative jobs. That's increasing, whereas our student population is not increasing at the same rate. So there's a discrepancy there that we have to be able to see the facts and how the choices that are being made, what the ramifications of their choices are. And we're seeing them now in Oklahoma.
And we have 2 minutes left on our program. Representative Wesselhoff, you give a different perspective on this as a sitting legislator who is able to vote on these things. What say you about this?
About the educational savings account? Well, as I said earlier, I was infuriated that the bill was not given a hearing on the floor. I think there's some political ramifications behind that. Probably that's what really made Preston angry as well. Because basically he said, we send you down there, we elect conservatives, so we expect you to follow through on conservative policy, but for some reason you buckled on this. And my colleagues are very disappointed. Jason Nelson, the author of this bill in the House, did a tremendous amount of work. It's a great reform bill, as Estella just said. And I'm very disappointed. Hopefully, the Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs will be able to champion this again next year, and we'll get it passed and give parents some latitude in how they want to educate their children.
So it looks like we're going to have to attack this next year. Is that correct, Estella?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. This is definitely an issue that we will continue to work very strongly on. And it's also very important to note that when individuals elect conservatives, Republicans, it's part of the platform also, and it states in the statement of principles that we support choice in education, whether it's public, private, homeschool, charter, or otherwise. And so it's so important that when we elect individuals, that they truly not only vote their values, but also when we see the support overwhelmingly for education savings account, we cannot allow the education lobbyists to control this, and that's where we have to continue to push back.
Amen, sister.
In the last few seconds that we have left, Estella, could you quickly give us the website for OCPA?
Yes, sir. It's www.ocpathinks.org.
All right. And May 12th, Dana Perino is coming to Oklahoma, so folks, go buy your tickets, get on their website, and buy. Let's help support OCPA. And Representative Wesselhoff, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
And we hope you come on again very, very soon. And we thank Estella Hernandez. She's the Vice President at the Oklahoma Council on Public Affairs. We hope she comes on soon as well. And we appreciate you so much, and thank you for your service.
Thank you both. So appreciate you both.
Folks, you have been listening to Oklahoma Voice. I am Jonathan Clore. Good night.